Well, friends, we are coming to a close on E3 now. There is only one conference left, if you can call it a conference, a Nintendo Spotlight thing, whatever that would be. Supposedly it's 30 minutes, but it's nearly over. Almost. Anyway, now it's time for me to react to Ubisoft's E3 conference. A conference which happened yesterday at 9 PM, and surprised me quite a bit. It actually turned out to be my favourite of all the big conferences, and that's before Nintendo, and I seriously doubt that Nintendo is going to take the helm away from Ubisoft. I was shocked, genuinely shocked. I know I've been saying for a while that Ubisoft seemed to be a publisher on the rise, and, well, not on the rise, but a publisher that is changing its tact in the way it makes its games. But I honestly didn't believe that what they were doing would actually stick at all. And judging by what we've seen from this conference, I think it might have done. I think I might have been right. I might have been right in thinking that Ubisoft are noticing their error in their ways, in the way that they previously developed games, and actively trying to better themselves and better the artistry of their games. So there's quite a lot happening in Ubisoft's conference. I will go over most of it. I might skip a few things that weren't really that important. But first and foremost, where we have to start with Ubi is Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle. This is the first thing they showed off. Yves Guillemot came on stage. Miyamoto then joined him. They had toy guns. They were being ridiculous. I couldn't believe what the hell was going on stage. It was complete fucking nonsense. They were talking for so long about the game. Really sucking each other's dicks. It was so strange, and it was really awkward, and it was a really slow start to the conference. There was a nice moment, though, where they panned from the stage to the audience, and you saw one of the lead developers of Mario and Rabbids, and he was quite emotional seeing, for some reason, maybe seeing Miyamoto on stage and seeing all the hard work that he had put in this European team, because apparently this game was developed in Europe, and seeing it, finally come to fruition. And that was a nice moment, seeing how much it meant to that one guy in the audience. But finally, we actually got around to the gameplay. Now, what it seems like is it seems to be an adventure game and kind of a strategy game at the same time, a turn-based strategy game. It's basically Mario and Rabbids XCOM. It's XCOM but with Mario and the Rabbids characters. Anyway, when it started, it looked a bit ridiculous. I wasn't really sold on it. And then the further that they went into the gameplay, and at first how it starts off simple with singular moves, but could eventually evolve into something where you can chain commands together and ultimately work out a combo to tactically take down the team. It was surprising from something that visually and kind of conceptually sounds retarded. I mean, it looks stupid, but I think there is a genuinely good game hidden behind all that nonsense. So that was nice. All the characters have different abilities as well, so there's quite a bit of depth. And even though it was kind of a slow start into introducing that game, Ubi really turned it around by showing off what that game can do, and I was surprisingly impressed. They then moved on to Assassin's Creed Origins. It was shown in Microsoft's conference yesterday? No? So within the past 48 hours, Assassin's Creed Origins has turned up in Microsoft's conference. It was a bit more in-depth in Microsoft's conference than in this one, understandably. It's already been shown off once at E3. It's just, this one was more of a reminder of what it was. It's set in Egypt. It shows the origins of the formation of the Assassin's Brotherhood. Honestly, it showed us dick all, but it looks like a step in the right direction for the franchise. It's a step backwards to kind of reassess and reevaluate what Assassin's Creed needed to be. Not necessarily in story or in like world building. That's one thing that Assassin's Creed games have always been good at, is building a world and making it believable. One thing they really need to work on was the gameplay. The gameplay hadn't really changed since the original Assassin's Creed and was beginning to show its age. Given the extra time that they've had developing this, and considering it's from the Black Flag developers that, in my personal opinion, have made one of the best Assassin's Creed games ever, there is potential for this game to be very, very good and very surprising, and I have a lot of hope for it. I have a lot of hope. In terms of the gameplay itself, though, we didn't see much of it in Ubisoft's conference. We saw a little bit of it in Microsoft, and it looked good, but you couldn't really tell how it controlled. You couldn't tell if there was much of a difference been made. It's going to be something you can't really work out until you've played the game, whether or not it controls better. But visually, from an outsider's perspective, it's working. It looks like something that is changing its tune. Next up, they showed The Crew 2, and this one again took me by surprise, because The Crew, the original, was not received well. It was a nice concept and a nice idea, but it ended up being heavily criticised, kind of missing the mark on what it wanted to be. But this time they're really changing up what the Crew 2 is. You can now drive bikes, you can fly planes, you can drive cars, there are motorsport tracks in it, there are boats as well, and there are helicopters. They've used every single fucking engine-based mode of transport that you can pretty much think of. And the idea in the game is to become the king of all motorsport, to climb your way up the ranks in every single engine-based sport there is. And I really genuinely enjoy that idea. It's almost as if this is the only racing game you'll ever need, because it's got every version of a racing game. It's got the motorsport simulator thing in there, it's got the street racing thing, got motorbikes in there, it's got powerboat racing, there are aeroplane racing, like something like the Red Bull X-Wings thing. It is genuinely surprising. However, I do have my doubts. It seems a lot to pull off and to get right, and they couldn't pull off one aspect of engine-based sports last time, and now they're trying to work out 6 different types and make them work together. I'm not convinced. I'm going to be watching this game with bated breath to see if it does turn out the way it looks, but no, not right now. We had a brief showing from South Park. It looked like a new trailer was shown up, and nothing else needed to be said. It was a short trailer, and my god, is this game going to be good? You know that. It's coming from South Park Studios. It's pretty much a given that the South Park, The Fractured Butthole, will be amazing. So let's move on to something that was a little bit strange, I thought. This game called Transference. It's some kind of VR thing, but it looks like a bit of a motion picture, more of a movie type deal. It's got Elijah Wood in it and some other actors. It's surrounding something called Spectre Vision, which seems some kind of scientific project or research, and there wasn't really much else said about it. Quite strange. I don't know if it was a game or an experience in VR. At one point, I thought it was going to be Ubisoft's own attempt at a VR unit, but that turned out to be just the trailer for whatever this is supposed to be. I don't know what to make of that one. And then following up, something that looks incredible. And it's pirates. Fucking pirates, mate. And it is called Skull and Bones. And it's basically, you know the pirate bit from Black Flag, from Assassin's Creed Black Flag? It is basically that portion of being a pirate, being on the sea, captaining your own boat, customizing your own boat, and then taking it out onto the water and causing fucking havoc. It's basically that made into a full game, an online game. They called it a shared world, solo or with friends online. There's some season-based thing, so to be the ultimate pirate kingpin, basically. I imagine it's going to work kind of like For Honor does with their seasons, where certain factions that you join will gather points as you play for the entirety of the cause. It kind of does set itself up as For Honor's mechanics, not gameplay-wise, but kind of the metagame behind it. Yeah, there was a 5v5 gameplay match in a mode called Loot Hunt, where basically you swan around the water, collecting up loot, trying to get away at the end of the round with the most amount of cash. There are other enemy ships as well in the water collecting up loot, and you can destroy them and take their loot. It seems quite complex. There's a lot of moving parts in this. There's quite a few different classes of ships as well, which is interesting. It really excites me, because something like this I've been craving personally for a while because of how good Black Flag was, and now to have it like this in a dedicated fashion is brilliant. Oh, and also at the end of the trailer they showed that there is a fucking Kraken in there. I'm looking forward to this. I'm definitely going to be playing this on my own all the time, because that's the kind of guy I am. I am a lonely young boy. They also touched on mobile gaming, but not in the way I expected them to, or that was really covered in any other conference. No other conference touched mobile gaming. But Ubisoft was brave enough to, because they had one ace card. It's called South Park Phone Destroyer. And it seems to be like the turn-based combat from the console games, but ported over to a mobile platform and made to work on there. And it made me laugh from the get-go when you're FaceTiming Cartman. It looks pretty funny, and it is being made by South Park Studios as well, the guys responsible for the console counterparts. So it's quality assured, and it's South Park ridiculousness on the go. I definitely know now how I'm going to be spending most of my time on the toilet. And this was a really interesting thing. There's a game called StarLink Battle for Atlas, and it seems to be this kind of new level of toy-to-life video games. It takes cues from LEGO Dimensions in a way. Basically, you have these ships that attach to your controller, be it PS4, Xbox One, or on the Nintendo Switch. You build the ship on your controller with different parts, and you can switch out those parts on the fly to give your ship in the game different attributes. You can freely build these custom ships. There's no limit. You can have certain weapons and stuff that you can plug on. And it's both physical and digital. So what I take from that is that it's not just the toy. You don't have to buy the toys if you want to play the game. You can just play the game digitally. But I really like that idea. I like the idea of being able to switch out parts on a ship on the fly. But it might be a little bit awkward having the ship sitting on the controller like that. I don't know how that's going to feel in the final game when it's there. But I like them taking it to another level in terms of this Toys to Life idea, taking it away from the static figures of Disney Infinity or Skylanders. It's a smart move, I think, by Ubi. A smart move. Now, one big thing I was really looking forward to that they finally showed as well was Far Cry 5. Far Cry motherfucking 5, man. This looks good. This really got me this really got me going for Ubi. I was really impressed with it. You're in Hope County, as we know from the reveal trailers and stuff. You are cut off from the rest of the world. There's no phone signal, nothing like that. I watched a short interview with Dan Hay, one of the lead directors on the game. He was talking about how he wanted to create a feeling that he had when he was a child, about how this kind of impending doom from communism and the Soviet Union. He wanted to create a character that had that similar kind of feeling, and instead of just waiting for it to happen, acts upon it, and that's what the main villain in this game is. He is a priest, I think it's Father John, I don't know. But yeah, he is a priest that has seen the world falling apart, and instead of waiting for it to happen, has taken it upon himself to save people, whether they like it or not, and essentially take over a small part of Montana with a religious Christian cult. The game is based upon 3 different ideas. There is Guns for Hire, Friends for Hire, and Fangs for Hire. Guns for Hire, basically you roam around the world and try and find NPC characters that will be able to help you in different ways. Fangs for Hire are the different animals you can employ for your help. Basically, you have a dog called Boomer who will follow you around and help you attack enemies. And then Friends for Hire as well. It's an extension of that co-op gameplay, that co-op online gameplay that Far Cry has been trying to do for a very, very long time. In the interview as well that I watched with Dan Hay, he said that he wanted the feeling you get from taking over the different camps in the old games, so that kind of 360 approach where anything is possible. He wanted to expand that approach into the entire world itself. So they've made the game have a non-linear narrative, allowing you to explore it in your own pace. The example he gave was the fact that you can go north for a day and have a completely different experience to another player who will go south for a day, but you'll still make the same kind of progress, but have completely 2 diverging paths. Very excited for this. It's a setting that needed to be explored, one that isn't really explored enough. All too often do we find ourselves in games in foreign lands that don't really have any semblance to what we know. There are very few games out there that, for instance, have taken place in my home country, the UK. This is what excites me about it being in America. Even though I've never been to America, it's still something that is closer to my way of living than being in the Himalayas or being in a jungle or in a tropical setting. So Far Cry 5, very, 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 very good. Looking forward to this. Looking forward to this a lot. And then finally, wrapping out the show, Ubisoft did something that I honestly thought they would never, ever, ever do again. Something that has been long rumoured, something that is basically a myth at this point. They finally revealed Beyond Good and Evil 2. And the crowd went mental. Absolutely mental. They showed a lengthy cinematic trailer for the game. They called it a seamless online playground. They showed zero of what the gameplay will actually be or what the game will actually do. But when Michel Ancel came out and spoke about the game, you could see it in his face. He had tears in his eyes. This game means a lot to him. They've worked very, very hard on this. Apparently it's been in development for nearly 15 years, which is almost stupid. But no, it looks full of style, full of character. I love the monkey. The monkey's hilarious. It feels like something that's been stewing in development for a long time, so the only natural trajectory you can imagine for it is success, really. And there was a nice moment as well, because this is how they closed out the conference. The developers invited Yves Guillemot on stage, who then in turn invited the rest of the developers at Ubisoft, not just the ones working on Beyond Good and Evil, but everybody else, to come up to the stage and, just be on the stage for a moment. Take it in that these are the people responsible for the games, and it's what we're all there for, what we're watching it for, and why we love games. It kind of echoed back to the beginning when Miyamoto came on stage. And that's what I really enjoyed about this Ubisoft conference. They made it about the people who make the games just as much as the games themselves and the people who will be playing them. It solidified what I'd been saying. There does seem to be a shift in Ubi, even to the point where they didn't have any Aisha Tyler there. Yeah, they showed Just Dance 2018, but that's for the investors. That game makes them a lot of money that needs to be shown. And really the most telling and the most evident of this shift that they showed was, in fact, The Crew 2. because they had completely rewritten what the crew was. They had got a completely new vision and expanded it into something almost silly, but full of hope, full of freedom, and full of kind of artistic integrity. The Crew 2 is the perfect metaphor for what Ubisoft seems to be doing right now. It's taking what happened before, saying, nah, fuck it, let's just leave that behind and go wild, make something that'll grab people's attention. And there wasn't one game in there that really didn't grab my attention. Steep, yeah, it kind of fell off a cliff a little bit, and Just Dance I didn't care about. But everything else, it made me sit up and think, what's going on here? I want to know more about this. I want to know what Ubisoft have got in store. I want to know how this game was made. It's the conference I've watched back most. It's the conference where I've gone back and actively sought out the games to see what's going on. And that doesn't necessarily mean that the games will be automatically good, but it just feels like Ubi is now creating with the best intentions. And that is a good thing to be in and a good position to be in, given how I personally felt about them 18 months ago and how the audience as a whole kind of reacted to them. They got boring, they got repetitive, they got predictable. And this Ubisoft, this 2017 Ubisoft, wasn't predictable. It came up with something that nobody expected. And Skull and Bones. Skull and Bones looks fucking awesome. And that's it, that's my thoughts on Ubisoft. The strongest conference, I feel, of E3. If I was giving out an award for E3 winner, this would be it. Which has taken me aback. I didn't expect them to pull it out of the bag, but somehow they did, and I'm happy. But overall, this entire E3 has been incredible, and we've still got Nintendo to go. Nintendo that can potentially sink the fucking ship and sink the feeling I've got right now. Because the feeling I've taken from this E3 is we're hitting that golden period. We're hitting that golden age of this generation. One we hit late last generation, which may indicate we are coming towards the end of this generation. But there is a golden period right now. A big stack of games that are coming out, ranging from AAA all the way down to the smallest of indie titles that you've never even heard of. There is a massive range there of really good games, and 2017 has already been stacked, and now this E3 has confirmed that the next 18 months are going to be potentially even more stacked. I love it. I love it so much. So that's it. That's me done for today. That's it for the videos that I'm going to be putting up right now. Tomorrow, Nintendo reaction. Thursday, some sort of gameplay. And then Friday, Hilarious Name Pending, episode number 10. That will be the E3 wrap-up. I don't know what I'm doing with that yet, but I'll figure it out. You'll probably know tomorrow how that's going to look. Anyway, thanks for listening to me ramble for nigh on 20 minutes. And I'll speak to you tomorrow. Go play some games. Go play some fucking games.